Hey guys, thanks for checking in with the Convicted Podcast again. Today we have a special guest. His name is Zach from the Holloway Tape. We're going to be discussing a lot about how to fully accept who you are as a person and who you are in your band style, your band type. And I think the Holloway Tape is a perfect example of how to be able to do that. So please check it out. If you like what you hear, leave a comment, let us know what's going on, because we'd like to be able to continue to add value to you. So without further ado, let's check it out. Hey Zach, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. All right, can you tell me a little bit about the Holloway Tape? What is your story, and how did you guys meet and get started with everything?
So we are a really lo-fi, noisy mathcore band, basically based in Lakeland. We started a few years ago. It kind of just started as a thing where my guitarist posted a thing online saying he was looking for a vocalist, and I showed up, and I kind of just said I listened to them play some songs, and I just shouted a bunch of random words over on top of that because I couldn't really think anything off the top of my head. And he liked how I was able to improvise things off the rip. So that's kind of just been going from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you were the first and only vocalist then, right?
Yes.
Okay. So was that like the first time meeting up, or were they already playing something beforehand?
That was really the first time for me meeting up. The two of them, our guitarist and our former drummer, had been practicing songs for a couple months at that point, and then I showed up, started doing my thing over it.
Gotcha. Are you still shouting out random lyrics, or are they planned now?
They've all been planned since then. I definitely take a lot of time to write them all out. Sometimes they either have a lot of personal meaning to me, or it's kind of like a stream of consciousness thing where I'm just going off the rip. Whatever.
Gotcha. So you write all the lyrics?
Yes.
So when you are writing them, what inspires you when it comes to writing lyrics?
A lot of different things. I would like to say that when it comes to writing lyrics, I try to reach all aspects of my personality, or especially the ones that I can't normally express around people. Because I'm a pretty silly goofy guy, and but there's a lot of things that I can be pretty serious about that I don't outwardly express a lot. So a lot of times when it comes to writing lyrics, it'll deal with stuff that normally I wouldn't know how to come across with other people without sounding like whiny or I might think that I might sound annoying. So, but I don't feel that way when I'm writing it to music. At the same time, some things that can inspire me is just something silly, because I'm not completely a serious person in any aspect. So I try to write some kind of tongue in cheek, goofy kind of stuff mixed in with me being serious, if that makes any sense.
I mean, yeah. I mean, people do that all the time. So if someone is trying to write lyrics, what would you encourage them with?
The best thing that I could say as far as writing lyrics is to really be yourself. And another thing, and this also comes from me being uh, really a grammar. I don't want to say I'm a grammar Nazi, but I very much look into grammar and spelling and all that kind of stuff. One thing for lyrics that I would say is to always to do your best in not using a lot of the same words. For me specifically, a lot of when I'm writing, I try to be really a descriptive, and I'll be typing up things, and I'll find it really redundant if I say the same thing over and over again. It's so I try not to constantly use a thesaurus, because I don't want to be using words that I wouldn't usually say in a normal conversation or something
that
like
makes
that.
Sense.
Yeah, because definitely don't try too hard when we're writing lyrics, because sometimes you could read something and it feels like this person just pulled it out of the dictionary and didn't really know the actual like meaning of what was behind it. Because even though a thesaurus will tell you like the similar words, it's not. They might like be a little more extravagant or than what you were originally planning.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's more of just as far as writing lyrics, I would say just really just be yourself, especially if with whatever it is you're going for. Don't like try and be someone that you're not with your writing.
Right. Remaining genuine, authentic,
Yes.
all that stuff. Definitely. Because I think that's important too. Because like even if when you're just talking with someone like face to face, like there's like what are you trying to prove something like when you use words that you don't like normally use? Like just be yourself. Because that's the way to be the most authentic person when you're being yourself, whether it's on stage, off stage, whatever. And I think people can tell that difference, you know. So when you started the band, what is something along the way that may have kind of changed the game for you? Like you found out something, you're like, oh, we really need to do this. Like what's something that really stood out to you?
Um. Well, since starting it, one of the things that I've always wanted to make sure that we were doing something that I've realized at least about myself that has helped is I've always wanted to. I always try to do things that are a little different from what the norm is. Usually not even intentionally. And I'm not saying that we're like some super crazy original thing, but I always want to make sure that I'm doing things that are true to myself and are and I'm not doing it because I feel like other people are doing it. And I've realized that that's definitely helped my mood and my outlook on things for sure. Because like sometimes, I've played in other bands before, and we'll play with like certain bands that were like kind of similar to what we were doing, and sometimes I would feel really insecure at these shows because I would be like, man, these guys are doing what we're doing, but they're doing it better, or they're doing it this way, and maybe we should have been doing it this way. And unfortunately, it would break down to like I don't know how to do what some of these other bands are doing around here, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's something I had to learn for myself is that uh, just because like everyone else is doing a certain thing really well, and I can't do that thing, doesn't mean that I'm not doing anything right. I just have to do it my own way. And with this band, that's kind of how it's been. Is we all really we know what we want to do. We know that we kind of play something that's like, yeah, this sounds cool, and then we keep adding things on top of that. We keep trying to always experiment and do things different, and kind of look at what it is we did on our last song that we wrote or last record, and think like, okay, like what can we do that's not repeating the same thing over and over again? Like let's continuously try to evolve. And now it's at the point when I play a lot of different shows. I play with a lot of mixed genre bands, and it gets to the point where I'm able to see like, okay, these guys are doing this thing, and they're doing it the way they want to do it, and it's great. And then I'm doing my own thing, and it no longer feels like uh, a competition. Not that it ever should feel like
Mhm.
a competition, but that's just how I felt. It was like, oh man, like these guys, it's like they're doing what we did, but like this is how it should have been from the get go. And now it's more of like we got our own thing going on. These guys got their own thing going on, and we get along. We play shows together, and that's always a good time.
Right. So what helped you change that mindset really? Like to be able to say, okay, I'm not going to compare myself.
As soon as like I started, what what helped me get more into that mindset is just really kind of I'm sorry.
You're
um,
fine.
it's more of just having done this for as long as I have. It's just been kind of a more of a gradual change. As more as it's like the more I've been doing. this band specifically, and I realized like when I met, it really has to do a lot with when I met Billy, my guitar player, because he's a really weird, out there kind of guy. He's very to himself. He's almost like he's very similar to me, but a lot of the opposite. Because I try to be a very social person. He's very antisocial, and he chooses to be that way. But I, being around like people like him, it's more of like I just feel more comfortable in terms of like uh, what I'm doing, you know. Because just like and I think another thing that helps that's helped like with this mindset is in the band that I'm in, the other member is my brother, and then I have Billy, and it's just the three of us, as opposed to like, the last project I did, there was six different members, and we were all like kind of creatively fighting to do like which like, it was really hard, a lot of butting heads, to have so many like people involved. um and I think just when I, realized coming, because at first when you do a band like what we're doing, we're really noisy, and there's a lot of uh, feedback that we intentionally use in the music, or we're throwing a bunch of weird guitar pedals on top of everything, and it's just this like loud, chaotic punk rock mess. Um, After a while, you start to come to the realization that there's not a whole lot of bands that do that, at least that come out of the woodworks. A lot of them, they'll do a show like, once a month, or no, that's what we do. I mean, like once a year, um, or something like that, or they're already like a bigger like signed touring act. There's not a whole lot around here in Florida that I know of that are doing something similar. And so when I came to that realization, um, that like it's we really we're doing our own thing, and it gives me being separated. I'm sorry if I'm like going over in circles.
You're absolutely no,
Um,
no, no. I don't think you're doing circles at all. I think you're actually like going somewhere with this. It sounds like really, I think you're about to say that next piece is like, hey, if you're out there, do your own thing. Like, go ahead,
yeah,
just continue with it.
yeah. So one of the so to continue, when I'm doing this and being more separated from what other people are doing, it allows me to come back to it. And because when I started the Holloway Tape, when we really started taking things like going forward, it was a lot of like me secluding myself from a couple local shows for a short period of time. And I was really focused on getting our first like record under wraps. And then once we started being active again, and I go to local shows even if I'm not playing them. I go. I'm at the Noise Box all the time, and I feel like I'm in Ebor every other week. Because my friends are selling tickets to play some show. But anyway, when I've secluded myself from that and I've really focused on doing something that is more of my own thing, I'm able to look at all these other bands that, they all have their own like styles, and I'm able to really see now like, okay, these guys all have their own thing going on. Whereas before, when I was doing like a deathcore thing, uh, I felt like, we're all doing the same thing, except for these guys are doing it better than us, or we're doing it better than these guys, or this, that, and the other thing. And then being more separated from it, I'm able to better like watch everyone like play, and it no longer feels like so much of a contest as like these guys are playing this style of music. They do have their own like little nuances that make it their own, and there's a reason why everyone comes out and is watching them and getting down to it. It helps me like I feel like when you're doing art in any kind of music, or whether it be photography or painting or anything, there's definitely uh, it's a form of expression, and you should never be doing it uh, if it doesn't feel like yourself, you know. And one of the things like it, it it has felt like that to me in the past, where like I'm up there, uh, and I wasn't really like feeling myself, so I feel like I was blaming everything else like to myself, like, oh, it's because of this guy or this thing or that thing or which way or another, and that is why uh, I'm not happy with things. And then I kind of be a little more introspective, and it's like, okay, well, no, it's more because I'm not expressing myself the way I see fit.
Hmm.
Just
Did you feel
because you,
like did you feel like other things were like not letting you like express that way? Like you were kind of saying like, oh, this won't let me express this way. Like how did you feel
yeah,
about that?
yeah, I definitely did feel like, because like I definitely did feel that way, even though when it really breaks down to it, I shouldn't have felt that other things were preventing
Mm,
me. But it'd be like, I would be doing, in old bands that I had been in, and I'm, still great friends with everyone that I've ever done music with. But I would do something, and then we'd have a talk with it afterwards. And it's like, Zach, you shouldn't do this thing. It's a little too weird. And I'd go home and I'd think about it, and I'm like, I didn't really think it was that weird, you know. But I guess like for more of the context of the music we're writing, yeah, it's a little off-putting. Um, or like now before when I would write songs with my other bands, it was like everything has to be like really serious, really angry,
mm-hmm.
serious, and aggressive. And
Definitely.
I
There's
love
definitely bands out there that are like that.
yeah, and I love that kind of music. It's it's
Right.
it's a lifestyle. But I'm not always angry and aggressive, and sometimes that'll be a problem with my writing when I'm trying to write something. Is it's like, how many times can I just write that I'm angry about something if I'm not really feeling it, which is something that with being in the Holloway Tape, where our music isn't focused on any one particular emotion. Even if I'm, screaming half the time, I can do it in a way that expresses a different kind of emotion. And I've been more leaning into doing like a mix of like, I guess, kind of like clean vocals. They're more of like a spoken word kind of
Gotcha.
dealio.
Yep. It's a
Uh,
lot easier to go from screaming into like shouting or kind of yelling a clean line type of
yeah,
thing. Definitely.
absolutely.
So I think I may have thought of a solution for the angry thing you were talking about. Have you ever tried Googling how to be angry at everything? And you just how to write something angry at everything. But I think what you're saying is extremely important, especially for everyone that's listening in, because like you were saying, like it didn't feel right because it's just like, oh, well, that's not all of who I am. Like this doesn't feel like it's fitting. Like someone else kind of thinks it's strange. Like within the band, it sounded like it was other band members that were saying that to you because maybe they were trying to have a certain style. And like if your band is trying to have a certain style, by all means, find that niche, try to be within those confines. But if you feel like you can't fit within that style, kind of like what you're saying, Zach, but by all means, find whatever that niche is, or make a different niche of some sort. So, would you say that you guys may have kind of created something a little bit different, or have you really seen a lot of bands that do something extremely similar to what you do, or is yours really more just like its own thing?
I would definitely say that the more that we kind of like sit together and write new songs, we're definitely making something that is different. I know part of that because like whenever I show people our music, I get a lot of different comparisons. It's almost like I never really get compared to the same band twice. But my favorite ones are when I show it to people and I get a comparison like, "Yo, man, I don't listen to the Dillinger Escape Plan, but you guys sound just like it." And it's like, oh, well, all right. I mean, you don't listen to them, so how would you know? but but I mean, it's not like we're ever trying to force something like, okay, we heard this guy's record, we can't sound like this at all. We have to do the exact opposite. It's more of just playing what we think sounds cool and building off of that. I mean, when it comes to that aspect of things, our any kind of agenda or motif that we're trying to push is just trying to be just really weird, crazy, and just is very out there in general, um, unpredictable, um, and and so we keep trying to push that as just what is something that, like, when you're listening to this, you don't expect this part to come in, or just for it to go anywhere. One of the things that I've been working on as far as uh, like for our live performances and for our recordings is I'm using like a couple different microphone setups now, to where like I plug those into some different effect pedals, so that at certain points in certain songs, like I'll start singing and it'll sound like some kind of weird robot voice, or uh, something that probably vocals shouldn't normally sound like, probably because they're running through a guitar pedal. But you know, and even
Metal
then, like with
Zone.
our, yeah, that was actually one of the things my guitar player started off with, is he started taking apart a Metal Zone pedal and
Really?
rewiring the circuits so that it would start making some crazy like noise.
What?
Yeah, there's a whole like there's hundreds of YouTube channels where people do stuff like that, where they circuit bend all these guitar pedals.
Really?
And yeah, and my guitarist has a lot of fun doing that. He has a bunch
Huh.
of pedals that like originally like didn't have all the knobs and switches that they do now.
That's
Um,
crazy.
and like when you press it, it'll just make some weird sound for a minute, and then you quickly stop pressing it, because then it'll just be that continuous noise for a bit. Yeah,
Huh.
he does a lot of uh, weird like engineering stuff like that. All of his pedals have like paint on them and have you know a bunch of weird knobs and switches. Someone could
That's
come
super
up to
cool.
us and like someone could come up to us and be like, "Hey, I have that pedal, except mine doesn't have that switch on it." And he's like, "Yeah, because I went in there, screwed it up, took this wire and put it where it's not supposed to go, and now it does this thing." And yeah,
Creative.
it's always yeah, we it's something that we all like, we try to be, is we all come from different places, like as far as like where our background comes from in both our personal lives and just like the kind of music that we're all into. And it's just
Right.
more of just trying to come up with a feeling of just uh unpredictability, and which I think is always really fun. Even with our live shows, I never try to do the same thing twice. I want people to be at these kind of things and never know what to expect. We've
Yep.
it's
So I got a question for you, Zach, if I'm
what's
not
up?
cutting you off.
No, you're not.
So, would you say that your music is different now than like when you started as the Holloway Tape?
Absolutely, one
So
hundred
how
percent.
so how did you guys, because I'm guessing that what you're writing now, you're like, oh, this is the Holloway Tape. Because I feel like most bands typically kind of like write a little bit for some time and they're like, okay, we think that we're kind of jiving together. We think this is our sound now, and then they start really developing like, okay, this is who we are. Do you feel like you kind of went through that?
Definitely, I think part of that comes from us getting used to each other. With my brother Josh, who plays drums, he started off learning how to play like jazz drums, and then he was really into like hard rock and stuff like that. So it's been more of like, you know, he plays drums a certain way, and our guitar player plays guitar a certain way, and it's been more of just like feeling each other out. At first it was kind of like uh, almost like my brother was just playing drums to what Billy was playing. Like it
Uh-huh.
wasn't necessarily like he was doing anything like over the top. It was, I'm playing drums to keep everything in tempo. And now that we've gotten used to like the way each other's like style is, we're all able to like put in our own, more of our own flair.
Hmm.
Before, when we started, like it was like all I was doing was purely just screaming, mainly because of that's just what I've been used to. I've always been
Mm.
told to like, everything else you're doing is a little too weird. And then, then it started getting to like, one day at a show, I accidentally started doing these more like uh, cartoony sounding like singing. Uh, and my guitar player came up to me, he's like, "Yo, bro, that was sick, man. You need to do that on all our songs, man." And that was the first time I'd heard something like that. Normally, it's like, "Zach, whoa, you messed up there. What's going on?" Uh, and that's something that, like, it's just always more encouraged to do something that's a little outside of what we would normally do. As far as like I would definitely say that we found what it is each time we write a new song or write a new record. Uh, it's definitely like we think to ourselves like, yeah, we definitely have our own thing going on because we're all just more used to each other. When Billy comes up with a riff, he approaches it and he says like to me or Josh, he's like, "I wrote this riff and I thought like, oh, Josh is gonna have a lot of fun with this one, or Zach's gonna have a lot of fun with this one." It's more of like when we write things now, we write them because we know one of us is going to be really into it. Like we have each other in mind. So then when we hear the finished product, it's like, oh yeah, this is us.
That's
Before it would
awesome.
just be like yeah, before it was just like we wrote something and it was just that, like, hey, I wrote this guitar part. Okay, here's some drums, and then here's the vocals.
Yep.
And now
And
it's
now it
like,
feels like you're
okay,
supporting in one another, kind of
yes,
thing.
yeah, more complimenting each other, knowing what all of us want out of it.
Oh, I have this part that when you play that, it's going to sound really good, type of thing.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
already
it's
thinking about
always
like what they're going to do.
yeah, it's keeping each other in mind, knowing like, we all three of us know that we're not the best insert, here in the world, but we do know that we like what we are good at doing that, so we try to play to each other's strengths, knowing like, hey, like I know when Josh plays drums, he does it a certain way. This is going to complement your playing style, or when
Right.
Zach does the vocals, this is going to fit, for a more like easier like vocal passage and stuff like
Perfect.
that. It just all like complements like each parts of our personalities and stuff like that.
Very good.
I
So
think
have you
like
guys
I
been
think that's
going on?
something.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm
Go ahead and
sorry.
finish. Go ahead and finish.
Oh, the only thing I was going to say is I think that that's something that anyone when they're writing music with other people should keep in mind, is to play to each other's strengths and not necessarily to like expect too much out of someone. Like you might have someone in your band who plays guitar and he's really good at writing riffs. He might not be someone who's good at shredding, and you might not need him to do that. You don't need to like force other people to play certain things. It's more of just boosting off of each other's strengths, knowing that like, okay, you're good at this, we need to keep doing that. You know.
Right. Very good point. Being able to work on each other's strengths. That's very important because some people are like, oh, I guess I need to figure out this style of playing like this type of guitar lead or whatever. Maybe not. Maybe that's not you, So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, I had a discussion like that with someone else the other day, when it comes to writing music, and he was saying that you should just rip off all of your influences, anyone that influences you, whether even if it's not in the particular genre that you play, to just rip all of it off. He was showing me songs that he writes, and he's like, "This started off as a country song, and now it's a hardcore song." you know and I think that's definitely something that can be applied to anyone when it comes to like to writing that sort of thing, is to just play off of like what you're comfortable with, and don't worry too much about like, I have to know this style, like I have to
Right.
meet the requirements of this style, because in this style you do this thing. But I mean, like, you could easily take something that like would normally sound like, like, example, some of the stuff that like when Billy records me demos, he sends them to me, uh before like any of the distortion is thrown on him, like he just sends me something played on clean guitar, and there's some drums in the background, and it sounds like some surf rock song. And I'm like,
Really?
what? Yeah, and I'm like, what, we're writing surf rock now? And he's like, no, bro, you got to hear all the distortions on it. And then he comes over and plays it for me, and it sounds like a different song. I would have never
Yep.
known that that surf rock song I heard last week was this crazy metal song the next
Yeah,
week. And I think that that's something that like other people, uh, as far as like if you're ever like stuck in a rut when writing, is that like you to just play off your strengths, never like think that like you have to sound a certain way. With any like don't worry too much about like if you're confined to a certain like style of music or anything like that. To just if it works within the context of the song and if it sounds cool, go for it. Deal.
definitely. So, question for you: have you guys been on some tours?
Yes, we did our first tour last year.
Really
We played from Maryland and then worked our way back down here. We did Maryland, we did 2 dates in North Carolina, and then we did 3 dates in Florida.
nice. So, when you were doing that and getting ready, what was something that really helped you while you guys were on tour?
One thing that that helped when we were on tour was definitely we took separate vehicles, and it helped to constantly be in communication with each other. Um, I would say that one thing we definitely learned for the future is to all take one vehicle next time. It didn't turn out the way originally that we had planned, so we ended up taking like 2 separate vehicles, and it was a constant back and forth of us calling each other and being like, "Hey, man, this is where we are right now. Where are you?" They're like, "Oh, yo, man, we stopped over here. Now we're over there." And so we
Wait,
definitely, I would say something that I might be like answering the opposite of your question, but it was more of something we learned on the road was definitely like we need to stay in one vehicle so that Zach, me, is not stressed out the whole time wondering where everyone is. You know?
no, that is answering though, because like that was your first tour. So if that was your first tour and that's what you learned, like once you apply that, that's going to change everything from this point forward.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's important to
definitely.
know. And everyone makes mistakes, especially on their first tour. You're going to forget something. You're going to forget your phone charger at home, or you're going to take more than one vehicle, or you're going to break down on the side of the road. Just something is going to happen. You're going to have to roll with the punches. Touring is all about rolling with the punches every time.
Oh, absolutely.
So, how many tours have you guys been going on since then?
Just the one. We're
Oh,
currently
just the
trying.
one?
Yeah, just the one. We're currently we're working on planning on another one, hopefully for this year, during the
Awesome.
summertime. But yeah, we did just that one. I would say you know, one of the weirdest like shocks of doing like a tour like that, um, even such a small scale, was just playing in these other states. I would like meet people at these shows and I talked to them and they were all cool. And then we would leave and it was kind of the realization of, oh, I'm not going to see these guys at like the next show I go to. You know, any show I
Very
go to here,
different.
yeah, any show I go to here in Florida, whether it's one I'm playing or one that I'm not playing, I'll chat with someone and then, hey, what do you know? You're at the next show that I'm at,
Yep.
Um, and at this one, I'm meeting these people. We're adding each other on social media, and then I'm like, oh, I'm never going to see this guy unless I come back to North Carolina. You know,
Yep. Yeah,
um,
we have a few friends that we've made along the way with touring too. And what's really cool though is if you go back to that city and you've just stayed in contact with them at any extent, like just add them as friends. Maybe you see a post of theirs on Facebook and you hit like once in a while, like whatever engagement. Like once you go back, you can message them and say, "Hey, I'm going to be out. Would you be able to stop by?" And then you can like continue that friendship in that other state. So that's kind of a
yeah,
cool experience when that happens.
yeah, it definitely is all around. Is a really cool experience. That was the greatest time ever for me. It was always just something different each time. Even any of the like the bumpy roads we hit along the way, getting pulled over in Virginia or getting stuck in traffic or anything like that. You know,
Wait, did both of you get pulled over or just one?
just us, me and my brother were in one car, and then Billy was in another, and we got pulled over in Virginia. And I'm sure it did not help that you know on this tour, and at a lot of our shows, I try to bring I have a full-sized mannequin, and
Yes.
all the dismembered parts of that mannequin were visible in the back of our car. You could definitely see all of it, and I'm pretty sure that's just going to raise any kind of suspicion as what are these guys doing? There is an arm poking out and a head sticking out. Like I get it all the time, even at local shows. Like every once in a while, like they'll be like, "What do you guys got going on here?" And I'll look over and I'm covered in fake blood. And I'm like, "Oh, we're in a band, man. You know, this is what we do. You know, like crazy rock music." Um, but
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
it was ironic getting pulled over in Virginia because that whole time we were ahead of our guitarist, and we were pulled over for a good like 20 minutes, and then we were still ahead of him.
What?
Yeah, but not too far ahead. At that point, like he was like right behind us, you know. But it was
Nice.
like, damn, man, like, you know, because he's the one in the band who has to pull over and stop to smoke a cigarette, you know, because he can't like make his car smell like cigarettes. But yeah,
Gotcha.
so like, you know, all that good stuff.
So if someone wants to start a band, what is the first thing that you would encourage them to do?
Well, if someone wants to start a band, I would say one of the first things that they should do um, is to go to their any kind of local shows and meet. Like, if they haven't already, the first step would be to start going to local shows and meet like your local community for any shows. Whether you're going to see some cover bands or whether you're seeing like going to the local hardcore shows or death metal shows. Um, I would say that would be one of the first steps. And the reason being is because you're going to meet so many people there, and you're going to see like kind of some of the gear that people are using, get an idea of
Mhm.
like, you know, all right, when people are playing at these shows, like they have like kind of a rhythm to them. You know, they get up on stage, they announce a couple songs, they have some banter with the crowd. You'll also get to see like, you know, what just to get an idea of the kind of people you're going to be seeing at these things, know who to talk to for future reference, and it can just like, you know, I know that like, you know, some people like they'll start a band and they'll get some stuff going on, and then it kind of they don't really know where to go next, you know. I know like in my first band I was like 16, you know, and we
Mhm.
used that line 6 spider amp that everyone loves so much, and, and a
Rock
metal
on.
zone, and then we get to our first show and we see every other band that's at least like 15 years older than us, and we're like, oh, this is the gear that we're supposed to be using. You know, and not even that like you have to
You
use like,
have to start somewhere.
yeah,
It doesn't matter,
exactly,
you know?
yeah.
You can always get better gear as you go. You can always improve. You're always going to want to improve, you know? It's
Yeah,
not like,
absolutely.
oh, we're there now. It's like,
Yeah.
what happens if you keep growing to the point of arena stadiums? Wow. Arenas or stadiums. An arena stadium is actually a larger stadium that's an arena size. Wait.
Oh, right on. That's my kind of stadium. Yeah, you know, the other thing that I would say as far as if anyone's wanting to start a band is to make sure that the people that they're starting them with are people that they're going to be able to get along with in the long term, you know.
Chemistry.
Yes,
Absolutely.
the chemistry has to be there.
That's more important than like the skill or whatever.
Yes.
By far.
Because if you can't, because you know, I'll talk to some of my friends in bands, and they'll talk about all the time of you know, someone they have that they argue with, or they're always button heads, or you know, this guy's a little too weird, but he's getting the job done, and I think like, man, like I don't really have those kinds of arguments anymore. I'm related to the one guy, and then you know, and then I'm, you know, friends with the other, and it definitely helps because I mean, if you all could be really good players, but if you're not getting along, it's going to show. in your music. It's going to show in your live performances, because all this stuff is an extension of yourself. And if your music sounds like two people not getting along constantly, you know, it's going to come off that way, because maybe you'll have problems with like the bass player, and then so the bass player is just constantly turning himself up at shows, and everyone's trying to like outpower each other instead of having like a synergy, you know.
Yep.
I would say to make sure that like when you're starting a band, after you meet the people, if they're like unfamiliar with you, that these are going to be guys that like you're going to get a good vibe off of, um, and to work off that. Once you have like a group of people and you all have a particular sound that you want to go to, it once again goes into what I said earlier, to play to each other's strengths. Not necessarily like, and if there's something that you're not able to do to work towards that, start somewhere and then build off of that. So like let's say like you're wanting to be a band that does all these like crazy guitar solos, but you can't do those yet. I would say to start at a point to where you're not forcing that kind of style, in a sense. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, don't like write songs to where you're playing things that you can't,
Right, because if you can write it in the studio, but you definitely cannot play it live, and you don't have backtracks yet, like it's just gonna look bad. It's gonna be weird unless you can play something that's different than what you have recorded that works together. Like if someone's trying to stretch too far, I totally agree. Like it can be really weird. Oh, and to add to something that you said about the chemistry, something to consider when you're working with other people. This might sound a little silly, but can you cuddle with them in the van? Because if you're on tour, you got to be close, and you're going to be close for days on end. And if you're trying to go that route, by no means do you have to go that route as a band. But if you do desire to continue to grow and grow and grow, and you're trying to tour, and you're going to be out for 30 days in a row, pretty much every day in the van together, you don't want to have to fight each other the whole time. That's just nonsense. Like you're going to want to have to get along.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. It's also gonna be am I gonna be able to put up with this guy's odor every day?
That too. Are they tolerable enough?
Yeah.
That's another way to put it. Like honestly, and are you tolerable enough? Because you have to think about like how annoying you can be to someone else.
Yes.
Like because like everyone that has their things that they're annoying with, and there's gonna be points where if someone's hungry, and they might get hangry and tired and grouchy, and you'll see everything.
Yeah, for sure. That's me. Yeah, no, I know. That's the kind of stuff that like, we deal with on the regular. My brother's the kind of person that like as soon as he gets tired, it's like oh my God, Zach, I don't care where we're going right now. I need to sleep right now. we're not driving 40 minutes to go sleep at that guy's house. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll come up with a compromise. We'll work this out. that was one of the things. Is that first night of the tour was in Maryland, and that's like 15-hour drive from Florida, and we didn't go 15 hours straight there, but as soon as we were done with our set, we were told like we were gonna be able to crash this one dude's place, but it was an hour and a half away. And my brother's like, Zach, we're gonna pull over and we're gonna sleep somewhere because I'm not driving an hour and a half. I'm gonna die. And I'm like, all right, we're good, man. We don't gotta worry about it.
Again, playing to each other's strengths. If you need to sleep, you need to sleep because you're just gonna have to at some point.
Don't overexert yourself. For sure.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Zach, I think we're going to have to bring it to a close with that one. But like, man, I really enjoyed this conversation. And I really think that there's a lot of stuff that we talked about that I really hope that's going to help some people that when they're listening to it, especially like, just be yourself, be original. Don't let others, tell you who you have to be when you play live and everything. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's all the things that you've been saying this whole time.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So Zach, thank you so much for being a part of this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys perform again next time you're at the Noise Box, because I'm sure it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I see you there all the time, anyways. And always feel free to come by and chat because I'll be working that coffee shop.
Yeah,
ideally good
for
things.
sure.
All right. Thank you so much, Zach. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you again so much for checking out the Convicted Podcast. Please show the band or business some love. Follow their handle. It's going to be in the description below. Make sure you check them out, see their products, see their music, see if it's something that you like and something that you'd like to get. Again, huge shout out to Vratum for sponsoring us. They have drum shoes and other merchandise for musicians of all different types. I actually have tried these recently. I'm a guitarist and fourth teller, and we recently played a show and I've had them on and they felt great. Very thin, to be able to feel where I'm pressing the pedals and everything. I'm sure it's even better for the people who are playing drums to be able to have a lightweight shoe that's easy to maneuver. But thank you to Vratum. Check out their link in the description below as well, because they have a special surprise for you if you follow the link to their website. Again, thank you guys so much. And if you have any suggestions or comments, or if something stood out to you, please write a review or message us. Let us know what's going on. And we hope to continue to build this so that it gets better for you to continue to grow your band and your business. Thanks again. See you next time.